You know, Mr. President, I've said on numerous occasions recently that the cornerstone of any healthy democracy is the ability to vote and the access to vote. Because that is one time where we are all truly equal. Whether you're a CEO of a big high-tech company, or you're a farmer, or you're a school teacher, you're a nurse, whatever, your vote is equal to the other person's vote. And so it's imperative that we make sure everyone has that freedom and that access to vote to express that day of equality and deciding who is going to represent them at whatever level of government that particular election is going to have. The second part of a truly healthy democracy is after the election that we have belief in the results, that we believe that the election was conducted in a fair way, election was conducted in a way that produced a result that we can all, whether you agree with who voted for that person or not, you can agree with the results. And that's really important because, look, we have wave elections. 1994 was probably the first wave election I can remember. The Republicans swept Congress for the first time in decades. In 2006 and 2008 were big wave elections for the Democrats, not only here in Pennsylvania, but for Washington, D.C. as well, and Nancy Pelosi became the Speaker of the House for the first time. In 2010, the cycle went back the other direction. People were upset with Obamacare, and the wave went the other direction. So that happens, and it will continue to happen for the rest of time, that the elections will go back and forth. Sometimes the Republicans will win, sometimes the Democrats will win. And that's fair, and that's the way it's supposed to be. Because what's important in that is that the belief that you can affect change at the ballot box. People could rally or unhappy with their representation. They could go and they could rally, they could get together and get the votes and change their representation. And we've seen it, as I just mentioned, the times we've seen it. And that is so imperative because if you don't believe you can effect change in your government at the ballot box, well, then you're going to try to affect change in a much more negative way, possibly a violent way. And then if you do lose your democracy. Look, the last few elections, not just Republicans, I just saw a clip just recently, Hillary Clinton talking about how she was cheated out of the 2016 presidential election. Pennsylvania was obviously key in that election. She's still espousing that there would be Russian collusion or something else, that election was stolen from her. Obviously, if you look at my call logs, and there's no issue that I've gotten more comments about than the 2020 election, and all that went into that. President Biden made a comment with House Resolution 1 in the U.S. Congress, which is a federal takeover of our elections, stated that the 2022 election will not be fair and secure unless the federal government takes it over. So clearly there are concerns. And as policymakers, I'm certainly opposed to the federal government taking over, but as policymakers, it's our job to put into place provisions to make sure that you do have that belief. No matter who wins, but we have the belief that it was fair. And look, I can't think of anything that's more unsecure than a drop box. And it's been proven. I mean, the very respectable district attorney in Lehigh County said that, look, there far more ballots were cast than people showed up to vote at the drop box. We've seen videotape of it happening. And whether you think it's convenient or not, it's against the law. And, if it was done as a provision because of COVID and the mail problems, okay, fine, I disagree. But guess what? COVID's gone for the most part. And the provisions and the mail isn't having issues anymore, the post office. So if that was a remedy for the COVID problem, well, then that's gone and it should go away as well. So, everything that we've tried to do here is, again, add faith, to make people believe. And I'm going to just say one more thing, and it's a repeat in a lot of ways of what I said last week when we debated the merits of the Regional Greenhouse Gas Alliance. As the institutional officer of this body, the Senate matters. We are the people's house. The Senate and the House matter in creating public policy on all matters of government, particularly elections. We were not included in this invention of drop boxes. We didn't have any hearings. We didn't have any votes. We didn't try to put measures into place. We were excluded. You know, my great friend and colleague from Philadelphia said this is disrespect to this institution, disrespect for the Constitution. I would argue that doing this without the legislature is a disrespect to this institution, the disrespect to our Constitution, that we get to vote on these issues. This is a matter for the legislature to pass, to debate, and the governor sign. We didn't get involved. We didn't have a say. The people's house had no say. That's wrong. And, you know, I know most people back home don't care if the Senate had its say. I do. And I'll be here for a few more months, and I'm going to continue to fight for this institution. That the executive branch should not make these decisions without us. The court should not make these decisions without us. This is our job. And whether you like the policy at the end of the day or not, you should stand up for this institution because it's wrong to circumvent the legislative process. Anytime you do that for political expediency to achieve an end, you are taking away a little stone of this building and the freedoms that go along with our Constitution. So I think this is a good bill that adds to the security of this voting process, which is so important. It's the number one issue if you poll it out there right now. I think we're taking all good steps here today. But again, the Senate matters, and we should stand up for the Senate every day. Thank you, Mr. President.